How can you get God's best? The Bible tells us in the book of Proverbs, the reward of humility and the fear of the Lord are riches, honor, and life. Now notice the word is reward, singular, not plural. That means all three come together, riches, honor, and life. Consider King David. We read in 1 Chronicles 29, verse 28, that he died in a ripe old age, full of days, riches, and honor. He had more life than just a long, healthy life on earth. He was looking forward to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So let's look at the first prerequisite to this threefold blessing. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Humility is an unpretentious disposition. Other words include meek, lowly, gentle, quiet, unassuming, spiritually needy. The Hebrew word for humility relates to the outcome of affliction. According to Old Testament scholars, it's the goal which God intended when he afflicted his people and toward which they are to endure affliction. The humble consider and experience God as their deliverer, receiving grace from him. They keep his rules and regulations. They wait on God and are led by him. The word humility first appears in the Bible as gentleness or condescension. It describes the humility of God himself. Now, it seems bizarre that the Creator would stoop to suffer, but that's exactly what happened in Jesus Christ. God himself knows what it's like to be broken. Brokenness is the prerequisite for humility. It hurts to be broken. Jesus was broken for our benefit. But more on that later. When you are humble, you don't focus on self-esteem. You esteem others more than yourself, especially one extraordinary person, and that is the Lord. The fear of the Lord, it's not normal. It's not inborn. It is learned. It does not mean fear in the sense of terror and panic, but in the sense of extreme respect and reverence. Terror and panic lead to paralysis, anxiety, and even death. To fear the Lord means to hold him in highest regard and reverence, leading to admiration, obedience, and worship. It is used first in Deuteronomy, and I quote, "And now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, to keep the commandments and statutes of the Lord, which I am commanding you today for your good." The fear of the Lord means loving his constant companionship. This is for our good, not for his ego. He is self-existent and self-sufficient. He does not need us. We need him. However, in another sense, we must fear the Lord because he is holy and will never overlook sin. In other words, the perfect being has zero tolerance for imperfection. Hence, God is called a consuming fire. This means a cavalier attitude towards God is courting disaster. What amazes me is the prescribed way to learn the fear of the Lord in the Bible. It's by having a party for celebrating the goodness and greatness of God. It's funded by 1/10 of your income dedicated to God and his purposes. Now, Moses described it in the book of Deuteronomy. Again, I quote, "You shall surely tithe all the produce from what you sow, which comes out of the field every year. You shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God at the place where he chooses to establish his name, the tenth of your grain, your new wine, your oil, and the firstborn of your herd and your flock, so that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. You may spend the money for whatever your heart desires, for oxen or sheep or wine or strong drink, or whatever your heart desires, and there you shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God and rejoice, you and your household. Wow, this is a mandated party at God's expense. But the reason for this is God wants us to be completely clear that he does not need any of our stuff, especially not our money. Now let's look carefully at each of the three rewards for those people who qualify.
The Hebrew word for riches first appears in Genesis when Abram rejects all the riches from the town of Sodom. This word is used 6 times in Proverbs. It never refers to spiritual riches or intangible wealth, but always to material riches, cold, hard cash. Many believers choose to trade material wealth, like money, for permanent spiritual wealth. Jim Elliot, missionary to South America and martyr, said, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." Thus, earthly wealth, although good, is dangerous, since it might blind its owner to greater wealth. We read in Ecclesiastes, "He who loves money will never be satisfied with money." The Apostle Paul wrote, "The love of money, not money itself, is the root of all types of evil." Riches, which are truly God-blessed, come as a byproduct of a righteous life.
The Hebrew word for honor occurs 376 times in the Bible. The word has the sense of glory, splendor, abundance, dignity. Think of the sun shining in full radiance. An honorable person is highly esteemed in the community. Their life carries weight. They influence people. They are revered and respected because they are impressive. These are the people who make their communities better. The word honor first appears in Genesis chapter 31, where it refers to the prestige and achievements of Laban, Abraham's nephew. The word has a sense of glory, splendor, the aura of accomplishment, all the good things that someone has done. A man does not receive honor while walking alone. Rather, he is honored in public, where he serves as an inspiration, an example for others to follow. God promises to honor the humble. He also promises to abase the proud. Honor cannot be taken by force. Rather, it is freely given. God does not honor the self-promoting. No, he honors the humble, the person who does their job and serves with distinction.
Life is mentioned last, but is clearly the most important. Riches are useless to a corpse. The life described in this text is written to people who were already alive. So what kind of life is it? How is it better than the life they already had? Life must mean more than ordinary human life. Does it mean longer life, healthier life, happier life, or a more fulfilling life? Let's probe deeper. The Hebrew word for life is used over 450 times and appears first in describing swarms of living creatures made by God. According to Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, the possession of life is an intrinsic good. The Old Testament speaks of life as the experience of life, rather than as an abstract principle of vitality, which may be distinguished from the body. Life is the ability to exercise all one's vital power to the fullest. Death is the opposite. The Hebrew word meaning to live involves the ability to have life somewhere on the scale between the fullest enjoyment of all the powers of one's being, with health and prosperity on the one hand, and descent into trouble, sickness, and death on the other. I appreciate the words of Moses to all the people of Israel as he offers 2 choices: life and prosperity, or death and adversity. Then he tells them point blank, choose life.
The sequence is important: riches and honor and life. According to Proverbs 22, verse 1, A great reputation is worth more than great wealth. Again, looking at Proverbs 3:16, where wisdom is personified, and it says, wisdom holds life in her right hand, that is her stronger hand, while holding both riches and honor in her weaker left hand. The heavy treasure, life itself, weighs more than riches and honor combined. Think about it. Life is much more important than the other two. Riches and honor are no good for someone who is sick or dead. Here's another way to look at it. In arithmetic, we see the sum of two numbers and then a multiplier resulting in a product. So this is how it works. God's full reward equals riches plus honor times life. We know that 3 plus 3 equals 6, and 6 times 3 equals 18. But if the third number, the multiplier, becomes 0, then everything becomes 0. With no life, all is lost. Now, Jesus once met a rich young ruler. This wealthy and respectable man came on his own initiative. He already had riches and honor. He was a successful high achiever, but he sensed that something important was still missing. He wanted life. He wanted a type of life that would not decrease. He wanted everlasting life. Great idea. Jesus said to him, "Sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me." Jesus was not opposed to wealth. Quite the contrary. Jesus wanted the young man to be wealthy permanently. He told him to convert his treasure on earth to treasure in heaven. This story indicates, once again, the three blessings: riches and honor and life, with the most important one being life. A wise wealth manager will use his short-term wealth to acquire permanent wealth. Now, wouldn't it be great if you were able to live healthy forever with public respect and riches that were not in jeopardy, that were secure forever? It's what Jesus told the rich young ruler, but unfortunately, he loved his short-term wealth too much. On the other hand, Jesus became voluntarily poor so that we could become undeservedly rich.
We believe that truth is universal and timeless, liberating and empowering. To discover more financial truths, visit wisdomwithwealth.org.